Test, test, test. 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 Test, test, test.
Testing. Testing, can you hear me? Testing.
Tell everybody why he's running for Congress and what he's doing. And then, well, we'll do our normal opening, right? And then I'll do the some of the House rules. And then here's what's going to happen. Tonight's speakers and guests. So before each group, like Lee, we're going to say this. Before you guys go up, we'll say the same thing before Brett and Jason go up. So each candidate gets 10 minutes. Unmute to tell them what the candidacy is about. What they
Not everybody comes.
And then we're going to have a Q&A by the constituents. And neither Jeff or I or anybody knows what question. That's the whole deal was. Everybody that's going to ask a question is going to be allotted to draw. Someone will have to get the number, they'll come to the microphone and ask the question. Then you'll get 2 minutes to answer and then answer the question. So it's kind of nothing to do with me and Jeff. You're looking at these guys. Oh, yeah. Right? The guys that are voting for this. Kind of the way it is. So 2-minute response, 1 minute rebuttal, if needed. In some cases you might want to, in some cases you won't. And then we're going to go through that with each group. And like I said, you'll have your own. Say it right? Because I know that I'm not. Okay, so we'll introduce you. We'll go into the Q&A time. I'll announce it. I'll go through this again with the candidates for the constituents. And I will give you 30 seconds. I'll be sitting right here. 3 fingers mean you got 30 seconds ready to make a response. Or 1 minute rebuttal. Say, okay, that's it, you're out of time. I'll try to be as polite about that as I can, but depending on how many I think it's going to happen. We want to get through as much as we can for you next week. So that's kind of the format. And then we'll take in, obviously, at the end of this, we're going to say,
she's got to move up now, so we'll sit
so that's how it's going to run. Brett and Jason won't even be here. Both of them are running late. So, yeah, okay, so that was the next thing. So, in order for who gets to go first for the question, we need to put a draw. We're going to let you guys draw. We didn't want to just, you want to flip the coin?
No, mute.
Here we go.
You're supposed to go see the lady back there at the table and get some tickets.
I'm okay with Nathan going first.
Are you okay? Never mind, we're done. We're done.
You're still going to need this for later.
Oh, Jason and
Right.
okay.
So you're just going to defer?
You know what? I find this easier.
You're a gentleman.
Here's what I think.
Absolutely. We're so far into this game. Anybody thinks that we have.
I don't know what's going on around here, but they're leaving your signs out here and they're tearing his down and throwing them in my side yard. So don't forget, I got a half a dozen signs for you.
I drove down
You guys, no favor, right?
off to 9, one of your big ones.
I've had them ripped down, stolen. You know, and I'm like, you know what? If that's the way they're going to do it,
Well, tonight is all
the
about
Lord sees all and knows all.
Yes, he does.
I don't have to. And I'd rather have him say, you know what? I will take the high road because I know he wants to. Where are we going to sit in?
You guys can sit here in the front row, and you're going to have a fear question.
Yeah, we're going to put you up there.
We're going to put you up there when it gets covered.
As soon as we start,
Yeah, he's going to go first. Yeah, just because he's on. And I kind of want to get through. And I got to make it now. Yes, that's exactly what I was going to do. You'll get 10 minutes. I'll give you 30-second cue to wrap it up, both on the 10-minute and then on the 2-minute. I'm not going to do rapid fire. Unless Jessica do things. Will you do something different? Oh, there's my 30-second card. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, we tried.
Could I have your attention, please, real quick before we get started? If you're going to ask questions tonight of the candidates, would you please see the lovely lady in the back who has the raffle tickets? One of the formats that was so important to us was nobody knows your question until you walk up to the microphone and ask it. So please, so we may keep this honest. Everything will be by raffle. Make sure you get a couple of raffle tickets. Thank you.
yeah, exactly. This is what we do right here. What do you think about this? Huh? Yeah.
So how are you?
Except for I'm going to have to tell you through that concept that's it goes that way.
So what we're doing
It sounded like that too.
are you the voice now? Where's your church at? Oh, okay. Are you
Teacher is
and then we're having
because I'm doing it myself and I'm
yeah, so I know, I guess we're going to do something different than this time. Oh, yeah,
if I had somebody to do that for me, we'd do it. I'm just so busy with all that.
got that out of the way, and then I started kind of hey, he's going to join the race.
Real quick, one last announcement before we get started. If you haven't got your raffle tickets to ask questions of the candidates, please do so real quick. We'll get started in about 2 minutes.
Did you get the sound figured out?
No. So it's all on whatever camera we're using.
It's an app. You can put your face on your movie station. Yeah. I love that.
Are you a bass fisherman?
Huh?
Are you a bass pro? No.
No, more trout and salmon.
Well, yeah, you're in the right area for that.
Yeah.
Put you on Facebook. I'm going to put you on Facebook like that. Yeah, I know. Yeah, look at us. Oh my God. No, it doesn't.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just going to text you. We'll try that. Everybody who's in our
So are you drawing or am I drawing? I'm drawing?
I know.
You're doing the drawing. I'm drawing.
I can try to edit it. I didn't want to put it on Facebook. We'll see what we're how can I
Ready? I have one for me. I have the sponsor for me.
Oh, good. Yeah, okay. He's the moderator right there. He's the man. He's my up front guy. I'm going into the shadows as soon as I can do my thing.
It's a little different tonight because we've got so much going on, but we'll get you in.
Yeah, just
Well, I'll make it now.
So you don't want to put that on Facebook.
Oh, so you figured out you got several of them.
Yeah, no, I didn't know you had it.
No, I didn't. Well, analyze all my friends.
All right, guys. Fellowship for Freedom, July 7th is called to order. Welcome. How's everybody doing? Good. We are so happy you are here tonight. I think you're going to get a special treat. You have a unique opportunity to talk to candidates direct with no covering from the parties, no pre-questions, no pre-anything. Everything that they get to talk about tonight is going to come from you. So thank you for being here. Fellowship for Freedom meets on the first and third Thursday of every month. And I'd like to give you a quick overview of our mission statement. Our mission statement is we work together to restore our God-given constitutionally protected rights through education while uniting under one Creator in the banner of freedom. Guys, I'm going to make a quick statement. The only thing I'm going to say tonight. We need something to change. Our forefathers knew where our rights came from. And whether it was the State House, going to the courthouse, going to the White House, or coming to our house, we need more God in this country. We need to look at what our country was, how it was founded, and where it's going to go. Okay? 1 Peter 2nd, chapter 2 says, live as free men, but don't use your freedom to do evil. When you look at the candidates tonight, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to think of the country that we used to have, the country that it is today, and the country we want tomorrow and for our children of the future. And we need to start voting our conscience and not by a party. And I mean either one. We need candidates that are going to bring this country back to where we were. Okay? So let's get started. We're going to have a great night. Let's open with prayer from Pastor Jeff.
Welcome to Reset Church, everybody. If you haven't been here before, ladies, the ladies' room's back here on the back corner, and the men's room's over there. And gentlemen, if you haven't visited that room, it is a men's room, I promise you. Complete with diamond plate and a craftsman tool chest.
All right.
All right. At Fellowship for Freedom, we believe in action as well. I did a crazy thing today because I've always said I can't just preach it, I have to live it. I found out that there was a vacancy on the Marysville City Council. So I was quickly putting everything together enough to get it posted and update. I put my resume real quick and get it on there. So because it closed at 5 o'clock today, at 4:35 I hit send. Because we believe in taking action. Amen. All right. Will you join me in prayer? Father, we thank you. I thank you for every single life, family that's represented here today. May your blessing and favor always be upon them and upon us tonight. I ask you to just give us an amazing time of information, Father, that goes beyond that, and it inspires us and helps us to get involved as well. I thank you, Lord, for giving the candidates just clarity of thought and the ability to speak and answer the questions genuinely, with transparency, honestly, from their hearts, bringing the truth to us tonight. We thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Please rise and hats off for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jeff. Some quick housekeeping rules. Let's silence our cell phones. I'm usually the worst. I got mine done. We'd like to take and eliminate the sidebars tonight out of respect for the speakers and the audience so everybody can hear. You're going to have plenty of time for Q&A, I guarantee it. No planning of illegal acts. If you hear of any, please let the group here know this in front of you. That's not our purpose. We're not anti-government. We might be a little bit anti-administration right now. We are faith-based, we're pro-Constitution, and we're all about getting our personal freedoms and constitutional rights restored. If you have people that would like to speak on the first or third Thursday of any month, experts in their field, please let us know. We'd like to do a 1 week approval in advance if possible. And we are live streaming tonight this event. You may appear on camera. This notice and your presence serves as your understanding and consent to do so. So if your hair isn't exactly right, sorry about that. Okay? And if you're parking in the red zone, your car's either sold or towed. Okay? So let's make sure you're not in the red zone.
Where is that red zone?
That red zone is the burger mill directly out back and to the side. Okay, guys? You might visit them afterwards, but not now. Okay, we're going to get the evening started. Tonight, we have 3 groups of candidates. The first group is a solo. They're better, or they're second elected not to show tonight. So each candidate's going to be given 10 minutes to tell us why they're the best person for the job and what their campaign's about. We're going to have questions by the constituents, that's you. We'll draw a lottery number, and you'll walk up to the microphone and state your question. Nobody in this room knows what you're going to ask. There's no pre-questions. We wanted a town hall that was unlike the other town halls you've seen in the last couple of months. We wanted it to be strictly the candidates talking to the people that will be voting for them, okay? Each person who's been given a ticket has been given 2 tickets that wants to ask a question. They'll be placed in a bucket. Taylor's going to be doing the drawing up here. There'll be a 2-minute response time for the candidates and a 1-minute rebuttal time if needed. Keep the playing field fair, okay? And with that said, let's get into our first candidate. So, our first candidate is Leif Johnson, and he is running for Congress. And here he comes. Second.
Hi, like you said, my name is Leif Johnson. I'm running for Congress in the 2nd District. I've got a question for you. Do House of Representatives get unemployment?
No.
Yes.
Well, we're going to have to ask Rick Larson because he is definitely getting unemployment because he's going down this time. So, I'm running on the Republican ticket, but I'm not just a Republican. I'm a constitutional conservative. And if you put me into office, I promise you, I will only vote constitutional.
So don't get mad at me because almost everything's going to be no. Because these guys haven't read Article 1 of the Constitution. If they had read Article 1 of the Constitution, they would find that the House of Representatives' jobs are about this small. So, I got a question for you. And I saw Robert Sutherland around here someplace. Why is Olympia only part-time for our representatives? Really? Because Article 10 of the Constitution, or 10th Amendment of the Constitution tells me, I got to correct myself right away, but the 10th Amendment states that
if the Constitution does not give this power to the federal government, it belongs in the states.
That's right.
Does it look like the states are doing their job and the federal government isn't encroaching upon our states' rights? No. You are right. This is why I'm running for Congress, because these people don't know their jobs. And they have encroached upon us in the worst of ways. I mean, let's discuss inflation. So, do you know where inflation comes from? And no, it's not Vladimir Putin. Overspending is exactly it. One of the biggest jobs of Congress is to hold the purse strings. You must hold the budget. They've abdicated that job, and now they've spent $7 trillion in 16 months. $7 trillion, that's with a T.
well, I would like to say it's only Democrats, but it's both parties. Look who's in power, look who's spending money. We're at $30.5 trillion currently. Now, let me put some of this into perspective. $7 trillion. It took us 230 years to get to a $7 trillion debt. 230 years. Yes, I'd say it's incredible. And now we're at 30.5. That's fast. Tell me it's only one Democrat. It's everybody is goddamn people, and we have to stop it. The only way. And the only way we can stop this is constitutional conservatives. Because what is worse than a Democrat in office? A rhino and a weak Republican. Because if you vote just strictly down the R's, which a lot of people do, they don't pay a lot of attention when they're in the primaries. We don't know what we're getting. I'm telling you, if we end up with a rhino, you're better with Rick Larson because you know what he's going to do. And he's not going to be lying to you like these guys are.
That's a good one.
So, all right, again, pledge. Constitutional only. That is it. I have joined a group, it's called the America First PAC. So the America First PAC is P-A-C-T, not Political Action Committee. It's Protecting America's Constitution and Traditions.
Yes.
So there's 20 plus members. There's more, we haven't got them all vetted yet. And they want to make sure that all of us are constitutional. The vetting is pretty intense. And we will go in together. We will go in together with pre-written legislation for some stuff like term limits. I'm adamantly for term limits.
Yes.
I signed the pledge. I'm only going in for 3 terms. And I've heard some people say, well, the Constitution doesn't say term limits are they're off the books. It's like, no. Because originally the Senate was appointed by the state legislature. So the only popular vote for federal government was House of Representatives. And they were supposed to live in their neighborhoods, be regular people who work for a living, and not be as disconnected as these guys are. They are so disconnected.
Yes, they are.
Let's get into some disconnected. They can legally insider trade.
Yep.
They can. They can legally insider trade. Now, this isn't just federal government elected officials. This is also appointed officials. So, I want to see term limits. I also want to see no more insider trading. And I want to see single issue bills.
Yes.
Yes. We can get this stuff in, and we can get it brought to the floor for a vote. We can definitely do this if we get enough people. So, like, if we get enough of the PAC members in, then what will happen is we'll have enough people to sponsor our bills and push them out of committee. Now, are we going to get term limits? Are we going to get single issue bills? Maybe not, but we need to speak about it. And then the next thing is, if we point the light on all these cockroaches that will not vote for term limits, the single issue bills, or any of this stuff, then all of a sudden, we need to go to their constituents. Yes, we do need to clean house. And we need to let the constituents know that these people are in it for themselves. You know, I've worked in industry my whole life. I've never been in office. And if I did anything like take bribes, I go to jail.
Yeah, that's right.
But lobbyists can walk into your office and bribe you all day long.
Yeah.
Why isn't that illegal?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Can we say pharmaceutical companies?
I am, now you know what I stand for. I am adamantly constitutional. I'm adamantly anti-rhino. And I'm also anti-Democrat right now. And right now, it's not the Democratic Party anymore. It's the Marxist Party.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
Karl Marx and Engels couldn't be any happier because they have gotten communism or Marxism into the United States full blown. Yes. So, I'm going to save the rest of you guys to ask questions because I really want you to ask questions. And ask the hard questions because these questions haven't been vetted. You'll know if we're not prepared. And after we're done, I'll be in the back until Pastor Jeff throws me out. But I will thank Pastor Jeff for loaning us the Reset Church to get this going, so you have a chance to talk to us. Don't just listen to a pretty speech. So one more thing. Follow me on social media. Go to my website, LeeJohnsonForCongress.com. Donate, volunteer. We need everything you can give us. Anything you can give us. Because these races are hard. And I know one candidate hired a campaign manager out of Maine, and he goes, what the hell's going on in Washington? They will not give, they don't donate, they don't volunteer. So, just saying. But thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We can go to the Q&A with Lee. Since there's not going to be a rebuttal, how many people have a question for Lee? I see your hands. Okay, we're not going to do a raffle. We're just going to start with you and go around, and if you'll walk up to one of the mics and ask the question, and then we'll just keep track of time as best we can. So, who has a question for Lee? Okay, young lady, why don't you get the first one? You'll be number 2.
I'm not supposed to blow it. Sorry. You're good.
Hi, Lee.
Hi.
What do you think matters most to constituents in your district, and what distinguishes you from the incumbent and your competitors? Thank you.
Well, so since I'm one of my constituents in this district, I know for a fact when I go to the gas pump right now, when I go to the grocery store, the prices are through the roof.
Yeah.
And everybody I'm talking to has the same problem. This is what matters. Am I wrong?
No.
Well, so while they're shutting down oil fields in Alaska, it's either 27 or 29 leases have been shut down. Now they just said there's a moratorium on drilling and natural gas drilling off the coast. You think this isn't planned?
Yeah, it is.
I do too. What separates me from my constituent? My constituent's been part of the party that, or not my constituent, my opponent, the incumbent, has been part of the party that has put us here. What separates me from the other ones? I'm telling you, if there would have been somebody who stood up with my values, constitutional, conservative, for term limits, for single issue bills, for these simple things, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be up here talking to you people. I really wouldn't. I would be at home playing with my grandbabies. But this is a calling. Somebody has to do this.
Yes. Right.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Amen.
Next question.
I think we can all agree that energy independence is extremely important right now for a multitude of reasons. Our trucking industry, our supply chains, everything. Do you have plans on addressing the energy independence?
Absolutely. We're going to turn it right back on just like Donald Trump did. Now, I'm going to add to this a little bit because I've been reading the Constitution a little bit. Federal government isn't supposed to be the biggest landowner in the United States.
Right. That's right.
They get Army bases and they get the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C., but that doesn't seem to be the case. So this way they can shut leases off because they own it all. Does that sound like we live in the land of the free?
Nope.
Exactly. We need to get this stuff taken care of because they want more. They want to shut off more. Let's go all the way back to Bill Clinton. He shut off the biggest veins of clean burning coal in the United States because he had money invested in Indonesia, where the other big bed of clean coal was. So, does that answer your question? Yeah.
I'll get Mary, and then I'll get you to 1, 2, just.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on all of the verdicts that came down from the Supreme Court this last couple of weeks, especially the Roe versus Wade verdict?
So this is my personal opinion. I'm not for killing babies. Amen. I'm not calling it abortion, it's killing babies.
Right.
But now let's look at the constitutional side. The only way the federal government can dictate is if it's given the permission by the Constitution. So we would have had to have an amendment. And Roe versus Wade should have never happened. It was always a states' rights issue. Yeah. So if you want to live in a baby-killing state, move to a baby-killing state. Yeah. So that's it. It's almost everything they're doing is they're just righting the ship that needed to be wrote. Right. That's right. I'm sorry. I come from the trades, so my verbiage isn't always as beautiful as it should be. There was another question?
Okay. My question is about the Department of Education. Your opinion of its operation and your opinion of its legal viability.
So, the 3-letter acronym departments, the EPA, Department of Education, these are all already redundant in the states. Why are they even existing?
Right. Yeah.
They should be gone. I wish Donald Trump wouldn't have stopped at the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Day one, gone. He should have kept that pen going because all these things were created with an executive order. And as far as I'm concerned, executive orders don't exist. Yeah. We allow them. Our states allow them. So I really think that we need to start shutting down these departments, especially when we already got the redundancies in place. Yes.
Hi, Congressman, and I'm going to call you Congressman so you can get used to it. So it's day one. I'm going to throw you a hypo. Yep. It's day one. You've been elected. You're in Washington, D.C. You're walking the marble halls. And you know what? You find out that, and it's true, the discretionary part of the federal budget is about 12 to 15%, and the rest of it has all been legislated into place. And the only way you're going to make any changes to that 85% of the gross overspending, not including the stuff that Nancy wants, is you're going to actually have to get laws repealed.
Absolutely.
All you go.
Absolutely. I am definitely for repealing a lot of these laws. Again, I'm going to go back to the Constitution. It tells you what you can do. It tells me my job description is in Article 1. It's that simple. And when you start really getting down to it, you find out that we can't do 99% of the stuff that we do, and we've allowed it. So I'm with you, and I want to get rid of that stuff as much as possible. But the other thing I want to do is I want to educate the populace, because so many people have been more interested in Dancing with the Stars and football on Monday night, and they haven't been paying attention to their civics, because liberty is an active job. You have to be active. You have to be actively active. No, but you have to be active in your community. That's what matters. Because you know what? So here's a little thing on morals. I'm going to preach to you real quick. Sorry, Jeff. I'm going to preach to you, but here's the thing on morals. Morals are what I should do. But I hear from everybody, this is what I can do. No, that's not the way this is supposed to happen. Because DC seems to think it's what they can do. Mm-hmm. It's not what they should do. And this country was based on morals. So we need to get back to that.
No, but it was a good speech.
So, yeah, go ahead.
No, it's you. You're up. Yep, you're up.
So would you be in favor of decriminalizing things like drugs and prostitution at the federal level?
At the federal level?
Yeah.
So at one time, hard drugs were legal in the United States. There was opium dens, this is where the street sweepers came from. I'm going to say I think that we should still have a moratorium on it at the federal level, but let the states handle it. Because Washington State has made decriminalized marijuana.
Everything. What do you heroin, crack, everything.
3 grams or less.
I really am a big fan of the states handling this stuff, because I don't even think we need a Department of a DEA, because the states already have narcotics divisions. If they needed some help, then maybe we can make a much smaller DEA instead of have them encroach upon other countries causing all kinds of problems.
All right.
One more question. Right after Victor.
My question is, when you're elected office, what will you do in response to a broader base of what we, the people, are represented, say in the rainbow of we, the people, in the Conservative Party, to allow open doors and
So one of the things I want to do is have 3 offices in district instead of just one centralized in Everett. I want to have them manned, and when I'm not in DC, I will be in those offices. Because why is it, if I work in the public sector, I have to take vacation days? But if I work for the federal government, as soon as I'm out of session, I'm on vacation. It's not the way it's supposed to be. So the other thing is, I want to work with all the PCOs. So I would like to set a coalition of PCOs of the 5 counties that are in the district, so they can man the offices too, and we can have these conversations with the constituents. And when they see something that I'm not aware of, which I'm sure that's going to happen, then we can sit down and we can have a conversation about it, and we can decide what needs to be done. Now, I've also gone out with a bunch of different state legislators that are running right now. And I think there needs to be a partnership with your federal government legislatures and your state legislatures so that they understand that the federal government's encroaching and we need to stop it. And this is the responsibility of the state. This is not the responsibility of the federal government. Did I answer that question? Okay.
One more.
Hi, what I would like to know, what is going to be your strategy for once you get into Congress? There is the House Whip. He is pissed off at you. He does not like how you voted. He's going to come in your office and he's going to get up to your face and he's going to want to rip it off. He is going to tell you, you will do this, you will do that, or this is going to happen to you. Then you have a lot of legislation, a lot of bills. Your aides are going to be telling you, this is how we want you to vote. There's money, there's property. What is your strategy?
I don't work for the House Whip, and I don't work for those aides.
That's easy for you to say, but what are you going to do when they come in and they put pressure on you?
There's a reason I'm running, is because pressure does not bother me. I'm not doing this to get rich, but what I'm going to do is I'm going in with a group of people, the America First Pact. We're going in as an alliance of candidates nationwide.
It will be interesting to see how you do when you get there.
You're absolutely right, because I don't have a voting record. So I completely agree with you. But Solia Kennedy, who is my campaign manager, is the one who made me run. She goes, "You're going to run for office." I said, "Well, then you're going to suffer the same misery as I am. So we're doing this together." And you need to circle yourself with moral people. That's the only thing I say.
One more question.
So what are you going to do to remove foreign influence and financials in our election process?
So you mean, what are we going to do to get China out of, I get it, China's a thorn, China is the worst, most invasive enemy we've ever had because they have undermined this country from the inside.
And the state.
Yes, and our higher education. I mean, we had the Confucius Institutes. So, what am I going to do? So, I was thinking about this today on my way to work this morning. Like, because, I've been asked, what committees do you want to be on? I want to be on the ethics committee.
Yes.
I really want to be on the ethics committee because they should be held to a much higher standard than we are here because they have such influence. So I'm going to get on the ethics committee and I'm going to become the biggest pain in, I'm going to put a caveat in here because, we talk about Hunter Biden, but we don't ever talk about Mitt Romney's son, who's also in Marysville.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Is it only Democrats?
No.
Hell no.
Hi, Lee. I wonder if people in this room realize that the Attorney General of the state of Arizona and a judge in Texas has declared what's happening at the border, the southern border, an invasion.
yes.
So I'd like to know what you would do, what would you advocate for, and how would you get it done to close the border or at least deal with what's happening on the border right now, the crisis that is going on there.
So
Thank
a lot, absolutely. So a lot of our problem, and I'm going to caveat in, here's China's influence again. Because China is funneling in fentanyl across the border through the cartels.
Yeah. That's right.
And the cartels down there are armed better than the federales in Mexico. So what we're going to do is we're going to stay in Mexico. I'm for building a wall. I'm for declaring the cartels terrorist organizations.
Yes, they are.
I would bet if we get the right people in Mexico, they would agree and they would allow us to go in there and take some of the problem out. And I know there's other people said that because I've had this conversation with Black Ops guys, and they said, well, you cut the head off and another one comes up. It's like a hydra. But I'm willing to cut that head off, start someplace.
Okay, I got to stop you.
Yep.
Okay, we're
Sorry,
done.
I do all my. Thank you very much.
Give him a good round. Come on, guys. It's not easy to stand up in meditation hall. Okay, second round. Real quick, we're going to get a little stricter on. We're going to go into the raffle mode for questions, but we are now going to introduce Anita Azaria and Bernard Moody, both running for the 38th LD Senate. If they'd come up, have a seat. And Bernard graciously is letting Anita go first on the questions so that we don't have to have a draw. Reminder, each candidate is going to get 10 minutes to tell us about themselves. We'll start with Anita, and then we're going to go into the Q&A. Taylor's going to be doing the draw of the tickets. When your number's called, if you get to a microphone, ask your question and then return to your seat. And we're going to try to take and get this going and get as many questions in the time we have. So, with that said, Anita, welcome to the party.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Pastor Jeff and the whole team who has made this evening possible. So thank you so much. And Holly, she is side by side with Pastor and always provides us the space and all of you to come here and know about the candidates and different issues. So thank you so much. As we all know, the criminals are on the loose. Taxes are skyrocketing. Violation of human rights are happening every day. These are the stories that I hear when I doorbell every day from my members of the community. When bills are passed that create chaos, confusion, poverty, homelessness, mental and financial distress, it's time to stand up and say no. I'm Anita Azariah, and I'm running for State Senate from the 38th Legislative District, which I believe all of you are from today. The reason why I am running is really simple to me. I came 29 years ago to this beautiful country. Who believes this is a wonderful country and there's no place like the United States of America? Thank you. I strongly believe that too, because I come from a country which I loved very much when I was there, but I did not know what rights and freedoms meant. Because I should say most of the countries in the world, they do not offer that to their constituents, their citizens. They don't. They are told they have the rights, but they don't. They are controlled. And when I saw exactly the same thing happening in this country, the brainwashing that has been going on for years and years, and I believe all of you are well aware of that. Nobody over here who is here tonight is ignorant. They know what has been going on. In our schools, our children have been brainwashed for the past 50 plus years. And 2 generations that are now grown up, which you see people, they just do not have the power to think for themselves. Critical thinking has been removed from our children. They are told to do something and they just do it. We need to bring that critical thinking back in our children so they can think for themselves. When my children used to come back from school, you know, in the beginning when they were little, it was all the talk about education, you know, this is homework, this is... And suddenly one day, my daughter said, Mom, and I sent them to Catholic schools. And I researched. I went to public schools, I went to Christian schools, then I went to Catholic school, and I saw the values and the morals were good over there. Now, I didn't know, I was not born here, I didn't study here, so I did what I thought was the best for them. And they are coming back and they are saying, Mom, you're not supposed to say God or Jesus in school. And I'm like, what? That's a Catholic school, baby. That's why I was sending you there. They said, no. But the Muslims can talk about Allah. They have a prayer room. But we are not allowed to do that. We don't stand in front of the flag anymore and say Pledge of Allegiance. I'm like, what is going on? And that was the start of me getting involved a little bit. Do I know everything what was going on in that school? No. But I tried to find out what was going on, and it seemed like they were just brainwashing our children, telling them, do this, which was accept, you know, whatever has been told to you, and just do it. Otherwise, you will be penalized. They will be giving detentions. Anyway, long story short, I started over there, and I started finding out what is going on in the schools and started getting a little bit involved. And then I was offered, suddenly I was offered to be on city council in Everett. The mayor over here, Cassie Franklin, and the other opponent who was running for mayor's position, Judy Tui, they called me and they said, look, one of us is going to get elected. And we want you to accept the city council. We want to appoint you for the city council. And I asked them, I said, okay, what do you stand for? You know, what is this Democratic Party that you belong to? I had no idea about what the Republican Party was, what the Democratic Party was. And they told me, and I said, you know what? I don't think my values align with you. But you're a brown person. I'm like, yes. That's the color of my skin, not the, you know, what my values are. So I didn't accept that. I said I have to do a little bit of research and I'll get back to you. And I said, no, I cannot accept that. And I believe how God put things in my way. I came across a Facebook post and I went to this Women's Republican group meeting where I was given a chance to speak, and then I was offered to be the chair of the outreach committee in the Republican Party. And I don't know how many of you know, as soon as I accepted that, that was in December, and exactly next year, 2020, COVID hit, everything got shut down. And I'm thinking, you know, how do I do my outreach? So I started doing some rallies and protests against the issues that were happening at that time. A lot of people were coming to me and they were saying, you know, our businesses are being shut down. They want us to put masks on, they want vaccines. So I started doing these protests and rallies. And I also wanted to help candidates to give them a stage, a platform to talk to their constituents or the community members. So for a while, I did these rallies. And they were pretty successful. Some of them were back the blue, you know, in favor of the law enforcement. So I'm all for that. And against all the mask mandates and vaccines and stuff like that. But what I was noticing that, yes, there was awareness created in Snohomish County by all those rallies, bringing all the good speakers, but there was no change made. And then my journey to run for, wasn't for Senate first. I was thinking and I was leaning on God and I was praying, whatever is in your, you know, thank you. Whatever is in the plate for me, God revealed that. And, you know, I have just 1 minute left, so I'll fast forward it. I was thinking about it and I was asked to run by the Senate Republican caucus. And again, I took my time, I prayed about it, and it felt the right time. And that's why I'm running. I have a track record. I have worked with Child Protective Services, Department of Early Learning and Real Estate. I have done compliance for the recreational industry. I have worked as a child development specialist with Edmonds Community College. Now I'm working in hospice and home health. So I say I have worked from the beginning of life to the end of life, which is children, you know, 0 to 11, and then hospice care. I am a doer. I do things, and if you know me, I have been doing things. I have heavily invested in my community. Not just my work that I've just explained to you, but also my volunteer work. I have spent hundreds of hours of volunteer time invested in this Snohomish County. And I'm out of time, so I'll respect that and I'll end there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anita. Yes.
My name is Bernard Moody, and I am a sergeant for the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office. And I have been in that position ever since coming to Snohomish County back in 1997, where I have lived that entire time in the 38th District. I have worked, raised my family, graduated my daughter from school, sent her out of the house, and I continue to run and to work in this community. I am probably the best, or closest thing to a homebred, or homeboy, to running for this office. I ran in 2020, 2 years ago, and I was told at that time that I would probably be using that as a foundation. And they even asked me, what are you going to be doing after the election? And I'm like, you looking for a place, other than looking for a place in Olympia? No. You're going to probably have to lay a foundation, get your name out there, and let people know who you are, and then you build on that foundation. You might have to do that a couple of times around the track. Well, I didn't have that in mind because literally I got called to run for state senator
And in the answer to that call, I decided to make my step towards the direction of fulfilling what I believe was what God has put in my heart to run. Now, the reason I'm wanting to run is because I believe, and let me ask you a question. Anybody know why our country's in the mess that it's in?
Yeah.
Okay, so this should have erupted because this is a church. We're in the place that we're in because we have abandoned our belief in God. We've erected idols in place of that faith of walking in concert with God, leading this nation. And just like back in Israel, when Israel desired a king, he told the prophet, he said, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me.
Right.
And I have learned that every time a people, because our country is relatively young on this, the age of the thousands of years that we've had human government. And I have promised that I have not found any nation that has been able to abandon the God-given rights and privileges that He has given America and has been able to exist. At one time, France led the world. At one time, Spain led the world. Portugal, England. And they have all passed away. And guess what? Now they're just, a second-rate country trying to organize into a one-world government. Well, back in, I can't remember the year it was, but Donald Trump went in there and told the World Economic Forum, we're not interested in your one-world government. We do not want to have any part of it. And that resonated with me because we have to set ourselves aside from the world. We have to be a people that is unlike any other nation in the world, because that is the reason why all the nations of the world are trying to come into our country in the first place. Yeah. Because they appreciate our rights and our privileges, which came to us from God. And they came to us from the Judeo-Christian ethics that we have derived our Constitution from, because I don't necessarily believe that it was an accident that Thomas Jefferson sat down to write the things that he did. I believe he was inspired by God. I was telling somebody today when they was asking me about, why do you have church and state? And I'm like, well, you know what? It was the church that created the state. Yeah. And the only thing we did was decided that we don't want to have the government telling us who to worship, and so that's the reason why we don't have that church and state thing. However, the left and the enemies of our nation has actually turned that on our ear. Right. And they told us that, we can have a right or say in the political arena. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's wrong. Yeah, that's right. That is not only wrong, but it is almost satanic in its essence. Because if the good people do not stand up at a time of darkness, then who's going to shed the light? And what book have we ever? We have all read the same book that said we needed to be salt and light to a dark and dying world. So these are the reasons why I wanted to be able to step into. This is the passion that God ignited in me when someone did ask me, would you be willing to? And I'm like, okay. Out of the 45 years that I have spent working and learning how to be a leader and learning what it would take to have authority over other people. By working in the correctional institutions the way I have and under the umbrella of law enforcement, I have been able to understand what that saying means, that power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I'll tell you something, just like when he gets out there to he's in the sewer pit. We wrestle against principalities and power, things in high places. And so these high places, that word meant governmental offices. And so we are up there fighting against not just the physical, but the spiritual forces that are behind those people. And unless we have somebody that's understanding where those powers come from, we're not going to be able to put them out. So I truly believe, in all the years that I have been serving, what it's like to have power and authority over other people. Really? Wow. And that power means that we need to serve them, not rule over them. Everyone wants to talk about a servant leader. But how many leaders do you see serving? I believe, because I'm 62 years old, I don't have enough age left in me to be I was going to say a criminal. career criminal. I don't have enough time to be that. But I do want to serve the people in the manner that I believe God would have us all to serve, and that is to serve one another. Our master once said, if I, being your Lord master, and I had put a towel around my waist and I had washed your feet, then how much more should we be doing to each other? So why is it so acceptable that a leader steps up to a place to get attention? I don't want to become a part of the system. I want to go in there and dismantle the system. And I want to be able to start with the state department that we have here in the state of Washington, under the district of the 38th district, which has Marysville, Tulalip, and Hat Island. And I also want to ask, if you're willing to help, go to Vote for Bernard Moody. That's a saying, that's a command too. VoteForBernardMoody.com and or Vote for Bernard Moody, Gmail. And let us know that you're willing to help. We need people that are willing to go out there and wave signs and flags or pass out. I got to stop now. Thank you for letting me say.
Thank you, Bernard and Anita. We're going to move into our Q&A. We're going to start with our drawing. Taylor is going to draw the text. When you hear your number called, please step to a mic and ask your question.
857.
Oh, it's me.
Call the next one as well.
Okay.
What I get is
No. Just
Well, I don't really have a question for Moody. I just want to say that I have an observation. And your observation is that you are really doing a great job engaging your audience and keeping them interested in what you have to say. And I think that you have a really good, I'm really bad at this, platform, and you have a good concept on, I'm really bad at this, guys. I don't have a
What's your question?
I don't have a question. I just got called.
Okay.
Can somebody else go?
856, and after that, it's 859.
Call the next one then.
856. No question?
keep going.
859.
Hit the next one.
Next. 893, then 873.
Maybe you better explain it again.
Okay. I think everybody knows. If your number's called, you have a question, step to the mic. We're pulling red right now. We'll call blue on the last group. Red's the first group. Well, hold on now. Everybody was supposed to get both if they had questions, but if you have a question and you don't have a red ticket, please go back and get a red ticket while we call the next number. Red tickets to call.
You got one, Scott.
Scott, behind you. Got the mic.
Okay.
All right, so according to VAERS, there's been 1.3 million adverse reaction reports, and reports say that's as low as 1 to 2% of vaccine injuries. What are you going to do to basically stop the government and the dictator in charge at the moment of enforcing these vaccine mandates and forcing people to injure their children potentially in the near future, as well as people that need to be vaccinated to have a job?
That's for both of you. Anita, you'll go first.
So I believe in the right to choose. And I believe, some of the people who want to get the vaccine should have the right to get the vaccine. But nobody should be told that they have to get vaccines to keep their jobs. So one thing I'm going to do is take that mandated things off, that you are mandated, you are forced to get the vaccines, or you have to do certain things to keep your jobs.
I believe the first thing we need to do is to get enough Republicans in office so we can just turn that stuff on its ear in the first place. So it's not just about me or about our race. This is about Republicans getting down ticket You need to vote for enough people so we can turn over these laws and these mandates that they have created in Washington State. Washington State is particularly evil. Thank you. So I would work I personally believe that, you should have the right to freedom if you believe that this event is something that you could actually benefit from. But if not, you should not be mandated to take something that they don't have any data on or experience with or any research on. So we are the research.
Next number. 912, then it's 901.
912, please. Red tickets.
Okay, I'm just wanting to know how you both would support our First Amendment rights when it comes to religious liberties, because I feel like in 2020 there was a lot of things that happened with the churches, with the closing down, and there was a lot of confusion, and I think a lot of pastors were confused. So how are you going to protect our religious liberties if you're elected?
First.
So again, it comes to your rights, your freedoms. This country gives the freedoms, and all we have to do is go back to the basic. The Constitution is there, the laws are there. So I'm just going to go back to what was already in place, which is the churches should have the right to open doors. If you don't want to come to church, that should be your choice. If you are so scared that you'll catch COVID or something else is going to happen, pray at home. But the churches should never shut down their doors, and nobody should force them to do that.
All I want to say is the house church. Pastor DJ, he's not paying me to give this plug, but I met him, I met him. And I went to his church because every other church that I knew, and this church probably was not one of them because I didn't know about this until later. But all my churches that I went to in Everett closed down. And they went to Zoom or, listening to the pastor, give a video somewhere. And I'm like, First Amendment right. You have the right to worship. So I don't believe that we are supposed to be in a position where, as a government, we're telling the people how to worship God. Because if we're doing that, we might as well just go back to worshiping Baal, like we are already, anyways. So, but that's my opinion.
Thank you. Ticket 901, please. 901.
So we talked about the First Amendment. Let's talk about the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the Second Amendment, number one? And do you really think that all these laws that they have, like let's say in Chicago, the red laws and all that kind of stuff, do they work?
I keep coming back to, this country offers you the rights and the freedoms, and we need to get back to that. Just giving you an example, my brother lives in England, and England does not allow, it's not legal to carry a gun or have a gun. So they are now using knives and, those kind of things to, if you are going to kill somebody or hurt somebody, if you are a criminal, you are going to find a way to do that. Guns do not one day decide to get up and shoot somebody. People have mental health issues. People have their own issues that they do things like that. We need to deal with the root cause. We cannot keep on putting band-aids, take the guns away, take this away, take that away, and everything is going to be fine. It doesn't happen that way. If you do not target the root cause of the problem and solve that, it's not going to get solved. So my view on Second Amendment, I own 3 guns. Thank you. I just got my concealed carry as well, so I'll be carrying one as well.
Well, I own 5. And an AR. I've been a firearms instructor. I remember back in school, we used to teach firearms in school, We used to learn how to hunt. We used to do all of those things that made our country great. We just celebrated our birthday, 246 years. And guess what? That birthday was brought to us by people who own guns.
Yeah.
We do not need to have our gun rights taken away from us, because the only reason why I think they want to do that is because they want to do something to you that you won't be able to stop them.
So I firmly believe that our amendments are in the order that they are for a purpose, because the Founding Fathers knew how important it was to have a government or a militia in place in case the government, not anybody else, but the government came after you.
863 and 904.
We got one right here.
I have a previous number here.
Okay.
So I want to preface my question with, we're a constitutional republic.
That's right.
We are not a democracy. And you mentioned getting Republicans in office, and I agree, because the Republican platform supports that. However, we have Republicans now in office that have voted with the Democrats that are leading to the policies that are ruining the state. And quite a few. And I want to ask just a question of Anita, if I may. Anita, you mentioned that the Republican caucus asked you to run. And I'm just curious, could you let us know who and how that came about? Who were the particular Republicans that asked you to run?
So I was at a conference where there were panels sitting, and every panel would have 30 minutes to say whatever they wanted to say, and just like this, people were asking questions. And they were elected officials, so city council members and all that. So what happened was, one panel had all people, Hispanic people who were elected. And I'm just saying it in the way it was said over there. And they were really fired up. They had wonderful stories, and they said, you know, we are Hispanic Americans, and we are going to work to make sure that our community is taken care of. I just had one question for them. I said, answer me this. If you are saying you're a Hispanic American, you are putting something that you left behind before America. Does that unite us? The only thing that unites us is when you say, I am an American and I am going to work for every member of my community.
That's so good.
And when they heard that question, you know, the answer, they couldn't give the answer because there is no answer. If you don't believe in America being first, put everything behind and unite under our flag, then you are not working for America. You should not be an elected official. Okay, thank you. The leader of the Senate Republican caucus and several other senators who were present over there, they came and they asked me if I would run for Senate. And I just told them that give me time, I need to talk to you. I met with them for about 4 hours. I told them my story. I told everything that has gone in my life. And I asked them, do you still want me to run? And they said, yes, we want you in the caucus. So that's how it came about.
Okay.
John Braun, Senator Gilden, Senator Shelley Short, Senator Keith Wagner. There's a list of them. I don't remember all of the senators. There were 6, 7 of them.
We're out of time. 863.
Yeah, I've got a question about what would you do to beef up security for our schools to protect our kids?
Is that a question for me, sir? Or?
That's for both of you. Anita, you go first with both of you.
Okay. We really need security nowadays, but before even that, we need to again focus on the issues that is creating all that insecurity everywhere, the safety issues everywhere. We need to give law enforcement their rights back to enforce laws. We cannot live in a society where the protectors are handcuffed and they cannot do their job. And that is why what is happening in our community right now is going on, because the laws that everybody is aware of, when they were changed last year, when they were passed last year, that does not allow our police to do their job. Number two, there should be risk assessments in school. You know, we have a lot of mental health issues. We have a lot of children who are growing up in families, or there are no families, where they are disturbed. And there are also a lot of outside factors that affect that. So there should be risk assessments, and there should be proper measures taken, and appropriates funds allotted to take care of all of that, so these kind of things don't happen in our schools, especially our children. They are going over there to get education. And then there's suddenly a school shooting or something else happens, or even assaults and violence and drugs and all of that is involved. So what I would do is I would bring bills to the floor that protects our children in school and out of school and the rest of the community. Thank you.
Well, the first thing I would do is arm the teachers. That's the best way to do it. If the teachers knew how to use firearms and they carried them, I guarantee you any kid that stepped up and got out of line with a gun would probably become a victim or a deceased. That would be the first thing. Second thing is I'll get rid of the indoctrination centers that they call education centers. That's the problem that we got. We don't have. I wonder why we don't go after kids that play video games that do nothing but kill and maim other people. Why don't we go after them? You know, I mean, these are the kids that are in these schools and they're playing these games. And so, you know what? We need to change that culture. We need to let them know that there is value in life. While the whole Democratic platform already teaches that there is no value in life. That's why they can go into an abortion clinic and kill 60 million babies. They already have that support. And now they're educating the kids into sexuality. And the confused kids need to be out there playing a ball, not sitting there trying to figure out what gender to call themselves. Or if I'm a female or gender.
I believe school violence exists because of the duplicit teaching that we have in schools. There's no morality, there's no wrong, there's no do this, you're going to get that. There is all do what you feel like. When all of a sudden kids stand up like, I just wiping out a bunch of kids. You know? Thank you. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
904. Can I have a rebuttal here? I just want to say a couple of things.
Okay. I'll allow it.
You know, I totally agree with Moody. He has served all his life, and this is wonderful. But we also have to see, it sounds good, but how many teachers do want to get armed? Okay, you know what? Not all of them do. Not all of them do. That is the fact. We have to see the facts. What can we do? You know, if the teachers want to come armed, they can. But what can we do to protect our children if the teachers are not armed? We need to do those risk assessments. We really need to get to the facts and the basics, how we can protect. It does sound really good, and in a Republican-filled room, you know, everybody might be for it, but you go in the community and everybody is not the same. I'm door knocking, and I'm hearing stories. People don't want to do anything with guns, most of them. Now that doesn't mean guns should be taken away. That just means we have to listen to the whole community as whole. As an elected official, you do represent the whole community, including the Democrats, including the liberals, the libertarians, and everybody else. So you have to listen to everybody, and you have to come up with a solution that works for everybody. Otherwise, we'll be in this situation again.
Okay, 904. 904? There we go.
So this is mainly for Anita. I was actually in the bathroom for most of your talk, but I did see your flyer. You say are for both human rights and for public safety. So one of the issues that happens in the criminal justice system is there's actually a shortage of resources to actually prosecute criminal suspects. So you end up with a situation where basically...
Can you repeat that, please?
So there's a situation in the criminal justice system where there's actually a shortage of resources to properly prosecute suspects. Okay. So what often ends up happening is you get these plea bargains, which are not actually really a great way, because you want to make sure you're actually getting the bad guys, but giving people due process and respecting their rights. So what would you do to address that situation?
To address that they don't get the plea bargain, but they get what they deserve?
Yes.
That is how it should be. That is exactly how it should be. So what is happening right now is completely wrong.
Okay.
I was talking to a bail-bound person who has a business in Everett, and I said, give me right now what is going on. And he said, Anita, it is awful. They're doing catch and release. The charges, that used to be like $250,000 or even $10,000 or $50,000, they are putting bail amounts like $50 or $100 or $1,000. He said this is a joke. And this is what it has become, a joke. We need to get back to punishing the criminals. They belong behind bars. And if they have done something wrong, they should be sentenced to the full amount of time. And they should be provided with resources and services inside the prison so they can get better, not outside. Because they're going to come out, if there's a $250 bail, which by the way, the Mariner shooter was released at $250 bail, which is ridiculous, the very next day. If you don't know, at Mariner High School there was a shooting and there was a $250 bail. That should have never happened. We need to get back to where we were. Sorry, go ahead.
So how would you do that while at the same time actually making sure that people do get due process, so the innocent people don't get locked up?
Well, that is up to the judges, that they need to hear better, the process needs to be better. Right now, the laws that have been made are just like, release them, and comes under human rights, they have the right to do this. We need to take all the color and all the other things that they have added in the system to release all these excuses. We need to take those out. Because this is a minority community person, or this is this person, they need to be released, or there's COVID, release all the people who are above 60 years old, release them because they're going to die in the prison. So we need to remove all those excuses and take care of our community and make it safe.
Okay, so it's the idea that basically you... All right.
Well, I would just like to share a little bit about what I experienced in my job. I work as a supervisor of the jail, and I'm responsible for the inmates as well as the staff, scheduling and all that stuff. And one of the things that we have to do is sign off on releases as a final approval. Not so much that they get out permission, but just doing it just to check to make sure there's not something else that they miss. And some of the things that I get to see, there's one thing that really astonishes me, is that in the state of Washington, because we're a sanctuary state, we do not list the ethnicity of any Hispanic or national from Mexico. Don't even list it. We categorize them under either unknown or, better yet, Caucasian. So, if anyone wanted to pull the numbers and try to see if crimes were being committed by, undocumented people that are coming into our community, they wouldn't be able to find it. And if they did, they wouldn't be able to find a very accurate one. So that's one of the problems that we have. And I believe our prosecutors will probably be even better at answering that question. The other thing that I have also seen in our system is that they have a company called Community Bail Fund out of Seattle. They literally go through the list of arrestees, and they will just come up and bail them out, just indiscriminately. And I have seen them literally paying $10,000 cash for somebody who has a history and was back in jail within a week and a half. And so this process needs to stop. This is, in my opinion, intentional and undermines our law enforcement ability. So that's just some of the two things that I could add to that story. Thank you.
Okay, we have time. We have time for one more question. And Bernard, you're going to go first since it's the last question of the group. Need one first.
877. Woohoo!
So if I might, I'd like to ask a two-part question because I'm actually watching the live feed, and I think there's a question for the two of you here that would be appreciated to be asked. If I might, I'll keep it short. Having to do with, let me find it, sorry, the stream is pretty active, so this is a good thing. What is your stance on federal money that the state gets for child welfare systems? And I would appreciate a reply from each of you, please.
Bernard, you'll go first. Final question.
Well, anytime federal money comes into our state or in any state, it's probably going to come with a whole bunch of requirements, laws, just attachments. So I wouldn't necessarily say, if we can get money that can be beneficial to our district and the citizens in it, all for it. However, I am very suspect as to the requirements that they might want to set if we take that money. Like for instance, if they give money to churches, then they say, hey, well because you take our money, then we can tell you what to do. Well, I think that those things are wrong. So if our healthcare services or our children or any of those services actually get money, then what? They will start telling us what we can do with our children. So I would be very suspect, and I would rather have us say, let's find a better way of funding that so we don't have to take that money and or that control.
So I work with child care services and I work with child protective services. There's plenty of money that is there already.
It's not allocated right. It's not spent on the right services. They spend it wherever they want to, and it's not properly used. So I would actually use that money properly and channelize it where it's needed. The children do not get the benefits that they should. They do not get the clothing, the schooling, the services that they need. It's going towards a lot of other like therapists and they add a whole bunch of, one child comes with about 20 different people that are working with them. And the child is not really getting benefited. And I can say that because I worked in that field. I used to deal with those children on everyday life. And they are not getting benefited. They are still hurting and they are still in a very bad situation. So I would just be revisiting how that money is spent because there is a lot of money that is given by the federal government and the state. It's not being used properly, just like any other department. Yeah.
So my personal question has to do with the atrocities that are being leveraged on social programs, causes, affirmative action, dual equity, and there is no equity across the board for humans, which we should be valuing on all aspects of their lives. And they are basically teaching children not to appreciate the character that they have, the bodies that they have been given, and the color of their skin is being told it's either against them or for them, and neither one of those statements are correct. That's right. So I see a plethora, a boundless list of items that have been placed in our education system and into our businesses in order that people maintain a job. And so I'd like to know what will be your first two key actions when should you be elected in order to turn that back. Thank you for your time.
Okay, final question, Bernard.
Wow. It's not just because I'm in a church, but I truly believe that one of the reasons we have the problems that we have in schools is because we don't teach children who they come from. We need to have prayer allowed back in school again. We need to have the ability for people to understand that we are a people made in the image of God. There, you look. Well, you read the scriptures, it says from every tribe, every nation, and every race is going to be represented in heaven. I truly believe God loves diversity. I truly believe God is just not a white man or a brown man or a black man. I think the reason why we have the mix that we have is God wants to prepare us for being able to learn how to live together in heaven.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing we need to do is get rid of the humanistic, secular teachings that we have in school that teach children that they are just a thing or a blob, or guess what, if we would have caught you 9 months earlier, we could have aborted you. That's the kind of things that we got to get rid of. We got to value life, and we need to get rid of all of the things that take away from that value. So I think the first thing that we can probably do is just allow diversity to come back into school. Because right now, all they're teaching is secular humanism. We don't have the ability to teach the Bible class, but you can have a satanic class. We don't have the ability to hold a Bible club, or remember back in the day we used to have meet me at the flagpole? We don't see those kind of things because they legislate them out. We say, oh no, that's too oppressive. But yet they want us to get oppressed. So how about our rights? How about our children? So I would encourage, parents, if you've got children in the public school, they're in the wrong place. So,
thank you so much for asking that question, because this equity and inclusion words have been misused, and they have been fed in a way that our children either feel that because they are white, they are somehow some criminals that did something wrong and they should be oppressed, and they should be feeling sorry for what their parents or grandparents or whoever they are teaching have done. I believe in that all children, all people are made equal, and that is what they should be teaching. Again, they are spending a lot of money on the things that are not, they should never be taught in schools. That does not belong in school. When I came here to the United States of America, I was told, anybody I would meet, you have a beautiful complexion. Now they say, oh, you're a brown woman, you should be a Democrat. Seriously.
Yeah.
Seriously. And it's not Democrats are bad or Republicans are bad or they are good or we are good. We have made standards that should never be standards.
Yes.
Color of skin should never be a standard for anything. Every person over here is made by God and is beautiful in their own way. And in God's eyes, we are all equal. So these things need to get out of our schools, and we need to give proper education, which is what? Maths, English. How many kids today cannot read and write? We need to get back to the sciences, to the geography, to our history, the real history of our country. I have to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Bernard. They're not going on very far. They'll be in the back to answer questions at the end. We're going to get into our final group tonight. Red tickets are done. We'll move to, did I get that right? We'll move to blue tickets. And I do have a bit of housekeeping. I'd like to invite Jason Cummings and Brett Rogers to the podium, please.
Jason will be answering questions. The first question first. We'll be alternating. So just a reminder, each question, let's limit it to one question at the microphone, please. They'll have 10 minutes each to tell us about themselves. Each question will have 2 minutes for an answer, 1 minute for a rebuttal. And of course, we'll try to be as flexible as we can. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Cummings. I am the Chief Civil Deputy at the Snohomish County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. I know a few of you in the crowd, but not everyone, so let me give you a little bit of background. I'm a local kid, grew up in Snohomish County, raised my kids here in Snohomish County over in Everett. They went to North Shore Christian Academy. In fact, the last time I was up at the pulpit was graduation of my daughter's 8th grade. She was a lifer, started as a 1-year-old in the toddler program, made it all the way through to graduate 8th grade. She's over at Archbishop Murphy right now, and my son graduated from King's and is up at Western. This is my home. It's the place where I have spent my entire life. I went to the University of Washington, graduated for, well, I started at University of Puget Sound Law School, but became CLU when we sold it when we were down there at school. And as soon as we finished law school, my wife and I moved back to Edmonds, eventually moved up to Everett, and I've served the last 24 years this community as a deputy prosecuting attorney. It's really the only job I've ever done. Came out, I was in the King County Prosecutor's Office as a contract lawyer doing criminal work in the Seattle District Court. In fact, I probably had some, well, no, Brett, it was before Brett, I think, made it to the Seattle Police Department, but we got a lot of the cases that SPD would file that were in, how we say, the city did not prosecute, so they came to the county for us to prosecute drug cases and some other misdemeanors. After King County, I went to the Kitsap County Prosecutor's Office, and then finally my dream job opened up, and I got to quit commuting on a ferry boat and live and work and serve the community that I call home. So I'm really thrilled to be here tonight. I realize this is probably unusual to have somebody as a Democrat come in one of these forums, but I think it's important for you to hear my position, my perspective, and what I stand for. I've been very fortunate to receive broad bipartisan support. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, mayors throughout this county. I'm pleased to have the support of the Deputy Sheriff's Association. I'm pleased to have the support of the Linden Police Guild. And just a few minutes ago, I was informed that I have the support of the Everett Police Officers Association. I'm thrilled that Chief Dan Templeman took the unusual step, because he normally does not get involved and endorse candidates, but Dan Templeman endorsed me personally, saying this is important. And Pastor Jeff is saying I need to get a little closer to the mic. So I'm thrilled to have that broad support of law enforcement community, because they understand that experience makes a difference, and they want to make sure that they have somebody who's actually tried cases, handled cases from a prosecutor's perspective. I've handled cases in municipal court, district court, superior court. I've handled cases in the U.S. federal courts, including use of force cases defending law enforcement officers. I've argued in the Court of Appeals, and I've argued in the state Supreme Court. But more importantly, besides just that practical experience, I've also helped budget and manage the office for the last 14 years. The office has 200 employees. We have a budget of over $30 million. I've been integral in helping draft and help the former elected officials achieve their goals through the budget process. And it's this experience and this support that has led to so many of the county's elected officials coming forward and endorsing my campaign. People want to say, what do you stand for? What are you involved with? Well, first, I believe we have to have safe, livable communities. It is critical, and this is one of those little tangents I sometimes will go on. My wife and I would work at the county together, and we'll go on a walk on a lunch hour every day. And we head down downtown Everett, we head down Rockefeller, 37th, on up to Colby, on down to high school and back. And we see every day firsthand the impact of the opioid epidemic and the substance use disorders in our community on those streets. And I'm proud of the fact that I'm the lead contact attorney for our lawsuit against Big Pharma, as we're moving forward to hold pharmaceutical companies accountable for the impacts they've caused in our communities. And those impacts are real. I see them every day. Bernard Moody sees them every day when they come through the Sally Port. They're there and they're real. I know Vinny sees them as well. These are the situations that we're dealing with, and it's real. What I plan to do and what I hope to do, and what I've talked with all the mayors that are supporting me, is to sit down and coordinate our efforts. When these dollars finally come from the pharmaceutical companies, they're going to be pennies on the dollars compared to the impacts our communities have suffered, no doubt. But if we can partner together pool our resources together, we're going to have a much better opportunity at putting together programs to help get these people off the streets, get these people into the substance use counseling or the mental health counseling that they need, so that we can get back to having safe, livable streets. I mean, let's be honest, I grew up at a time in downtown Edmonds where I could leave on summer mornings, my mom, go to work, I could be on my bike with my friends, we'd ride around downtown. There was no fear, there was no concerns, there were no cell phones. I remember when they built the AMPM down there on 5th Avenue, and I remember when they tore the AMPM down. It was a sad day for me, because when I was a kid, for $1, I could go down to that AMPM, get my thirsty 2-ouncer and a Hostess pie, and we'd be good for the whole afternoon. But those days are gone. My kids, I wouldn't even let them walk from our house up to the North Shore Christian Academy where they went to school, because that 1-mile walk, the things that they would encounter are things that I did not feel safe. But I'm not willing to give up on the ideals that we can do better, that we can work harder, and that we can have a better community together. On the transparency side, I've been integral in working on the data collection initiative. This is an initiative that we're working on at the county to put together a public-facing dashboard so you all have a much better idea of what's going on in our law and justice system. This is a partnership between the Sheriff's Office, the Prosecutor's Office, and the courts. And we've had great success. In fact, I think Sheriff Horty was just the other day saying he's 1,000% behind this product and what we're trying to put forward, so that you all have a much better understanding of what we're doing with the law and justice community. And through that process, it's going to help bring transparency so you all have a much better understanding of where we're going when we're making our budget asks, because we do need more resources. We've heard other candidates here tonight talking about that. I've heard your questions talking about it. We have limited resources with a limited tax base, so we have to be smarter with the way that we are using our resources to hold folks accountable. Finally, integrity is critical. Integrity in the prosecuting attorney's office is absolutely required. We cannot be making decisions based on politics. We need to make these decisions based on the facts and the law. Never should you, as a citizen, think that there's a political decision being made affecting an outcome. What you really need to see is an outcome that's based on the facts and law. Because if you stick to the facts and law, then everything else, frankly, gets a lot easier. A lot easier. You don't have to justify it based on a political bent or political proposal. You're doing it based on what the law says ought to be done. So with that, my time is coming close to an end of my opening. I want to thank you all. I look forward to the questions. But I want you to know that it's important and critical that we have experienced leadership taking your office to the next step. Experienced leadership that understands the reform efforts that have been made and how we're getting them turned back and how we're working together to have a better community safety. So thank you all very much.
I'll just run with it then. I'm Brett Rogers. I'm running for Snohomish County Prosecuting Attorney this year. Jason, thank you very much for showing up tonight. I realized that you might be on some not hostile territory, but you mentioned something about a home field advantage. So I do appreciate you showing up tonight. It is important for voters to be able to make an informed decision, and it's much better to be able to hear from both sides. So I really appreciate Jason making the journey up here tonight. So I've been a Snohomish County resident since 2005. Been an attorney since 2008. I had a small solo law practice in Lake Stevens. But more importantly, I think, is that I've got over 20 years of law enforcement and corrections experience. I moved out to Washington in 1996 to work for Seattle PD. I was a patrol officer for a number of years. I promoted to sergeant. I was a detective sergeant in the domestic violence unit. I've got experience triaging cases, prioritizing them, assigning work. I have experience as a lieutenant, managing large groups of law enforcement professionals. I've led teams of up to 120 people, where I've set policy, came up with strategic plans, gave direction, made sure the troops had the training and the tools that they need, and then followed through to make sure they're actually getting the mission accomplished. So you're not voting for me for my courtroom skills, you're voting for me for my criminal justice management experience. And so backing up a little bit, the reason why I'm running is I've got 3 adult kids and 6 grandchildren, 2 of which live in Snow County.
I moved up here in 2005 because I could not stand living in Seattle anymore where I worked. And unfortunately, too much of Seattle has moved north. And it's a shame, it really is. We didn't have to sweep athletic fields for needles when I first moved up here. We didn't have problems with vagrant encampments. Unfortunately, the level of chaos and disorder in our communities has become horrific. It's exponential. You can turn on the TV, you can open the newspaper, see how bad crime has gotten. If you have a Ring camera, you get notifications on your app. If you're on Nextdoor, mine chimes constantly. Auto theft, things stolen from a storage shed, catalytic converter theft. Just the other day, I went to Home Depot in Snohomish and discovered all the lawn tools are now locked up because they keep walking out the door. So things weren't always this way, and they don't need to be this way. Some of the problems we're experiencing have been brought onto us by things that happen down in Olympia. They've watered down our criminal laws far too much. They've actually created a new law to make law enforcement's job much more difficult. They've rolled back some of those, but some more work needs to be done. And, unfortunately, some of the increase in crime we're seeing is a direct result of affirmative policy decisions made by the prosecutor's office. When COVID hit, the prosecutor's office made the decision to agree to the release of most suspects pending trial. So what has happened is, and we don't have enough time for me to give too many examples, but what has happened is someone gets arrested, they get out either on their personal recognizance or very, very minimal bail, and then they reoffend, and they get arrested again, and the cycle repeats. If we would those people early on, we would prevent additional victims, and that would benefit everyone, not just the additional victims, but benefit law enforcement from having to continually respond to the same people, arrest the same people. They wouldn't have to because they custody. One of, and again, there's too many examples to list in the short time tonight, but we hear a lot about gun violence. And I can't tell you how many cases I've seen in the last several months when I've really focused and really started paying attention to where someone will be arrested, either convicted felon and or maybe a convicted felon with a stolen firearm, and they are released without being charged, and again, either personal recognizance or minimal bail. One of the most egregious examples, unfortunately, 3 weeks after the shooting in Uvalde, Texas, a 15-year-old was arrested for opening fire outside of Mariner High School. That 15-year-old was convicted in 2020 for the theft of at least 2 firearms. The 15-year-old was given a suspended sentence and released. I guess I misjudged my time by quite a bit, so I will hurry up. Anyway, so obviously this kid back in 2020 did not learn his lesson, and how could he? Because there was no consequence to his actions.
That's right.
Right.
So this was released on $2,500 bail. Now, 3 weeks after Texas, I don't know why the prosecutor in charge of that case, the DPA, was unable to make a great argument of why that kid should remain in custody for community safety. I would have argued for a much higher bail if that child had to be released at all. He's obviously trending in the wrong direction. You go from stealing guns to taking guns to school and opening fire. So I'll close with this. We either care about gun violence or we don't. We either care about school shootings or we don't. We either care about our kids or we don't. If we do, it's time we start acting like it.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Brett. We'll move into the Q&A, and again, the questions are by lottery. Jason, you'll go first on the first question. Brett, you'll get number 2. You'll go first, and vice versa. We'll get back and forth. And remember, you each have 1 minute, 2 minutes to answer.
and a 1-minute rebuttal. Okay? First ticket up.
218 and 243.
So 218, please. The mic. We've talked about. We're on blue.
Blue, right?
Yep. Blue.
Okay. Not sure who I want to ask this question to.
How about both? We'll make it fair.
Jason, you started out by mentioning your connection to North Shore Church, which I think was brilliant. And then talked about accountability and integrity, and then mentioned all the people that endorsed you. But at the end of the day, we all know, well, I don't know if we all know, but I would assume that all of us know that Democratic leadership has led us into the current lawlessness that we are facing. So, I hear what you've said, but there's two people on this platform. There are two platforms in which you represent, an R and a D. And you know what? I've read those platforms in Snohomish County. I've read the core values, and I've read the actual platform. And I've read the principles too. And so, I don't know if I speak for anyone else in this room, but I'm not too concerned about people and platforms. I'm concerned about principles, because the platform comes from the principles. And the people who are sitting up representing us either align with those principles or they do not. They can say whatever they want. So my question is this. How in the world are you, Jason, going to convince us, or anyone else for that matter, since we're in a 20-year run, perhaps if not more, of Democratic leadership in this particular position? How in the world are you going to convince us that Democrat leadership, you are a Democrat, right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, because I've heard others say that you just put a D by your name because you didn't think you could win with an R next to your name. I don't know if that's true or not.
Excuse me, we need to get to the question.
Okay. How in the world do you expect to convince anyone that a person who is choosing your platform is going to lead us out of the lawlessness and not further into it?
Well, I think that what's important to understand is character, integrity, and experience. Are you going to hire a plumber because they know how to flush a toilet, or are you going to hire a plumber because they know how to fix the toilet? That comes from experience. It comes from actually doing the job. One thing that has happened through this process is the recognition, yes, I had to read that Democratic platform, and when I signed off on things, I also acknowledged that I don't agree with everything in there. Because I believe that as individuals, we have to have the right to go based on what we feel, what we experience. As an individual, those characteristics, and life experiences is what's earned me the respect and the support of so many different people from so many different parties, because they understand the need to get something done. it's interesting to me, particularly when we listen to hyperbole as opposed to actually the facts. When Brett brings up the case that came out of the Mariner High School situation, the case that was referred to the prosecuting attorney's office with the paperwork that was filed with the court on the super form had nothing to do with the shooting. It had to do with an unlawful possession of a firearm. That unlawful possession of a firearm is the only evidence that was in front of the court that morning when the court was entertaining the state's request for bail. The state requests $5,000 bond, which is an extremely high amount in juvenile court, for an unlawful possession of a firearm charge. There was no information regarding the assault one charge conversation and a completely different bail request in the courtroom that morning. And that's the thing that's important. You need to make sure you have a prosecutor who's willing to understand, listen, and learn all the facts, and not just respond to a social media post, but to actually understand what actually happened. I think that's what's critical, and that's what we need from character and individuals who are going to stand up to what's important for understanding a charging decision, for understanding how we have to have all the facts, and for understanding the importance of a decision to charge an individual. So my time has expired.
So Jason has racked up quite an impressive endorsements. Congratulations to him. The main, I've got some endorsements as well, but the main endorsement that I seek is the endorsement of the voters. That's what really matters. You're all intelligent, you all have brains, you just need the information, and then hopefully you will choose wisely. Just real quickly, Jason brought up something about individuals, maybe individuals' rights. Maybe I didn't catch this right, and this is kind of a sore spot for me, so I'm sorry, I gotta go there. The Snohomish County Prosecuting Attorney's Office is one of the few county agencies that has a vaccine mandate for their employees. To me, that does not speak to the rights of any individuals. That's a mandate if you want to keep your job and get your job. Someone who lost a job because I refused to get the shot and I had a religious exemption, that really strikes home. Going back to this incident at Mariner High School, there is an epidemic of violence among our youth. Guns have been around for quite a while. Guns aren't the problem, our culture is the problem. We need to work on changing that. So I've got limited time here, but I don't care if the only charge before the court that day was unlawful possession of a firearm. If a 15-year-old takes a gun to school, that is much more serious than $5,000. Next question. Ticket 243.
243, 245.
$259. 259.
Mr. Cummings, you've been in the prosecutor's office for 4 years?
Actually, 24 years.
24 years. Okay. Are you familiar with, and you also mentioned one project is addressing right now, loss or war. Can you explain a little bit more?
Addressing what?
Pharma.
Yes. Actually, the Snohomish County is actually suing pharmaceutical entities for opioid epidemic and spread of the opioids in our community.
For opioids. Okay. Are you aware of the criminal referral was brought to your office by many citizens on February 14th of this year?
I'm actually on the civil side, on the criminal side to take in that referral. So
regarding pharma?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 242. 242. Okay, 276. 2 2:30. 2:76?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So forgive me if I read, forgive me if I read, it might be a little bit similar to the past question. Many prosecutors in well-known cities around the country have been or being recalled for violating their law and not prosecuting crimes. They are all Democrats. What would you as a Democrat have to say to them? And I'd like to follow up depending on your answer.
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, I'm aware of several of those cases, and I think it shows the community's frustration when folks who are sworn into office to uphold the Constitution, the laws of the state, and the laws of the county, and they don't follow those laws by not enforcing them. There are always going to be situations where offices, due to resource limitations, are going to have to make decisions about which cases they could actually focus on. And candidly, we are always going to keep the priority for violent crime, sex crimes, crimes against children. Those will always be our hallmark and our standard where we're going to apply most of our resources. We will continue to ask for additional resources. In fact, the priority packages that I helped put together this year for the office that are going into the budget process is going to include additional, well, we'll call it the most senior criminal elements for violent crime. We're calling it a complex prosecution unit to focus on some of the most criminal or most violent homicides that are out there. But we're also putting together resources for training EPA to train both law enforcement and internal candidates within our office so they can better understand the processes for search warrants, for applications, for filing decisions, and for referral information. And then finally, we're also looking at bringing in someone for the most prolific offenders and for the gun crimes, so that we can bring in actual resources to focus on those elements of the criminal side of society that, while they may only be 10 or 20% of the defendants, they're creating 60% of the work. And if we can get them off the street, then it's going to help our resources by not having so many cases that we're going to have to focus on because we're going to send them to DOC.
So the question was, what would you just say to them? And it sounds like you're saying you don't approve what they're doing.
No, I don't approve.
So, if that's the case, you know that it is a specific theme of your party in every democratically controlled city, state, then why are you a Democrat? Yeah.
Candidly, I'm a Democrat because I believe in several of the core principles for individuals.
Could you say what they are?
The core principles?
Yeah. The ones
Yes.
you agree
I believe in value and respect of individual rights. I believe in value. I believe in the value of understanding where people come from and giving them an open home in our country, in the sense that when Jesus did not say exclude the folks, Jesus actually went to the well and sat with the woman from Samaria because he was opening his heart and his hand to reach out and bring others in and give them a better life. And I don't know why we would want to exclude people from those opportunities.
So you're saying that you think illegal immigration is okay?
I never said illegal immigration is okay.
Well, we are for legal immigration, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
My time's up.
Your time's up.
I guess I'll just respond to a few things. That's great to hear that the prosecutor is working with law enforcement to, I guess, bulk up their skills, up-train them a little bit. I believe that's one of the strengths that I would have in my career with law enforcement down in King County, so a slightly different animal. I witnessed many, many instances where prosecutorial decisions were made for political reasons. Now I fear they're going to be made for social justice reasons. And that has no place in our justice system. If you did the pledge before I got here tonight, liberty and justice for all is how it ends. So I don't care what you look like, where you're from, you deserve to be held to the same standard, and you deserve equal protection under law. And I forgot the second half of what was said, so I think I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Next question, 2:30.
would like to know what it is that you plan to do to stop the revolving door.
That's an awfully large question for anyone to stop the revolving door, but first and foremost is accountability. One of the reasons why we're putting together a package for prolific offender DPA/gun crimes DPA, so we can focus on those lower level crimes that keep coming back and through the system. Because if we can compile those cases together, put together a sufficient offender score so that we can send them to DOC, then we're one step ahead of getting them out of our community and into an environment where they can get the rehabilitation, where they can get the education, and hopefully be in a position when they come out they can be contributing members of society. But a lot of the revolving door issues, and this is very personal to me, because when you see on the streets, and we see it, you can't get off the freeway off-ramp without seeing the homeless situation with chronic addiction or mental health issues. And each one of those individuals has a story. They're not all the same, but we have to be able to address those issues and meet them where they're at, with an effort to actually give them hope and get them out of the situation they're in. So many of the drug addicted individuals that we're dealing with in the community are folks who are dealing with it as a result of their lack of hope. They're taking the drugs to get away from the situation they're in. We need to be able to meet folks where they're at, get them into the diversion of services, get them stability, with a roof over their head, get them stability with job training, get them stability with an actual opportunity to get out of the muck that they're in and actually get back into society. It's not an easy situation whatsoever. When the legislature proposes pre-pandemic, it seems like most of our lives now is pre- and post-pandemics, how you can put a calendar on things. The legislature was proposing to decriminalize possession of a controlled substance several years ago before the Blake decision went and legislated from the Supreme Court. I thought that was a horrible idea because you cannot just go and decriminalize and not have a social infrastructure system set up. We have underfunded our mental health system. We have underfunded our drug treatment and rehabilitation system. So how can we expect to help these people get out unless we're going to have beds available, social services available, and an ability to actually provide them that link to get out of the situation where they're in. That's how we can break that revolving door.
When I hear the phrase revolving door, I think of two things. The much larger issue is what do you do with people who keep reoffending? And that's the, I guess, the original revolving door is, and sometimes people try to weasel out of it by saying we can't arrest our way out of this problem. When you hear that, that's a cop-out. That's somebody who's given up. So if it's, doesn't matter if it's criminals or if it's drug addiction, people that are either addicted and or commit crime, because they're often unrelated, they don't stop or they don't accept help until they're ready to. So at some level, there's nothing that we can do about the revolving door except for continue to hold them accountable and treat each opportunity that each time this person hits the criminal justice system, it's a chance at an intervention, it's a chance for them to choose a different path. So we shouldn't not hold people accountable just because they're not yet ready to change their ways. The second part of the revolving door is what is currently happening right now directly with the policies of the Sonoma County Prosecutor's Office. Yeah. And that is release everybody the fear of COVID. Maybe that's an excuse and they just do the social justice thing and do the kind thing, do the compassion thing, which is the exact opposite of compassion, not holding these accountable. So we can stop that small revolver by objecting to the release of violent and prolific offenders. And the ones that are going to be, so we can argue for the highest bail possible, so they will recognize and they will understand that we, the people, the judge, are serious, and that they do not reoffend. They're going to feel that sting financially if they do.
Two, 6, 8.
My husband ended up getting his truck stolen. My husband's truck was stolen, and So thank goodness we were able to get it back, but because of the new policies that have come down from the legislators, it was very difficult for the sheriff and police to take care of the situation. So, as the FF is rising higher and higher in our community, needing money for their drugs, when we got truck back, it was drug paraphernalia. They strive to curb this thievery that is going on, that, you know, it's on us. We have to pay what they're doing. And I'll just leave that to either one.
Brett, you'll go first. Jason, you'll have to go. Sure. One of the things to do is start holding people accountable sooner rather than later. And it's going to start to sound like a broken record. So take auto theft, for an example. If we let out who steal on their personal recognizance, or $500, $1,000, not enough to pick up on that. So there's no lessons to be learned from that. And if it takes 3 or 4 years, then they're trial. Again, there's nothing to be learned. Anybody who's kids or trained a dog knows that if the consequence comes too far from that, there's no claim made. So we need to hold people accountable sooner rather than later and get the trial quicker. And when all possible, we need to keep them in custody pre-trial.
I think those are all very important statements that Brett made, but I think the most important thing to understand is how the system works. The prosecutor routinely goes in and asks for higher bail, and the courts routinely institute a lower bail. I think that just saying you want to ask for higher bail is not going to result in that. Where we as a society needs to be focused on, you know, we have now 17 Superior Court judges, a host of district court judges, and do you know how many of them run unopposed every year?
Probably not.
Bernard? None of them.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court, 9 justices who every Thursday I get up and I check the decisions that come out from the Supreme Court, because every Thursday it seems of late there's a new decision that's impacting law enforcement or impacting the prosecution of cases in a manner that's making it harder for us to bring justice. How many of them face opponents on a regular basis? Bernard? None. So it's critical that we focus on the concept of how do we as a system, but how do we also make sure the judges, who are also the ones who ultimately impose the bail, are holding folks to that level. And I want to go back to the concept that Brett keeps bringing up, the jail was just flung open all because the prosecutor said we need to kick these people out. You have to remember that when the COVID pandemic hit, it was Sheriff Fortney, Prosecutor Adam Cornell, there were members from the Public Defense Bar and administration from the courts that sat down, figured out a way to get the jail in a situation where violent offenders were not cut loose, they were kept, rest assured. But where other folks, they could reduce the census in the jail so that it was safe and we did not have outbreaks. And that was a critical step because the Snohomish County Jail, unlike other correctional institutions across the state of Washington, did not have an outbreak. And it was from the leadership of the jail management and folks like Bernard, who were working every day in there to make sure that it stays a safe place, worked hard to do that. So I think it's important to recognize that it's, Brett would like to say it's all the prosecutors doing, but at the end of the day, it was a coordinated effort by the law and justice system to have a safe environment so we can hold those who are the most violent in that jail in a way that didn't have them released for medical conditions.
Number 1 minute, Bill.
Yes.
The Snohomish County Jail is currently at 50% capacity. So years ago, counties and cities were being sued for overcrowding. That is not the case. There is room at the end. If we've calibrated to the point that our jail is half empty, we've gone too far. Now, I understand the first piece of COVID, people didn't know what we were facing and didn't know what was going to happen. I understand an abundance of caution there. Time has shown that there are therapeutics out there that work. COVID is not necessarily a death sentence. So we've gone too far with too many people. And I'll just finish with this. If a criminal is out there is concerned that they're going to contract COVID and maybe get really sick, possibly die, while incarcerated in the Snohomish County Jail, maybe that should be part of the calculus that go in their head before they decide to come back.
also, once again, spoke by someone who's never actually had to defend the jail in wrongful death lawsuits, where the taxpayers' dollars are expended on a considerably high level. The sheriff made an appropriate risk calculus in making a determination of what the population ought to be so that it did not expose you, the taxpayers, to unnecessary risk. And that did not result in releasing violent offenders at all.
All right, next question, 289. Okay. 257. Full disclosure, Brett. It's been to my house. Jason Cummings, it's a pleasure to meet you. You don't have horns. I actually have a question, and Brett, your response. Councilor, keep me honest, okay? You currently have the endorsement of sitting Republican City Council member Sam Lowe. Is that true? Council member, thank you. Also, Republican County Council member Nate Nair. His dad. Also, sitting Sultan Mayor Russell Weed, Republican. So here's the question. I'm looking at you. Here's what you're saying. We got a guy over here who's running on ticket. This room's predominantly Republican crowd. What is it, sir, that makes you so special, so privileged, and so much more confident that these people I mentioned, other Republicans, would be willing to live for people, their own political leaders, when they claim to have known you years since childhood, and yet they don't know that you were out for Democrat. What exactly is it about you that makes you that special? That's my question.
I don't know that I'm any more special than anybody else in the room, but I will say this. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have good friends. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have earned the respect of many people based on what I've done as a career in the prosecuting attorney's office for almost 24 years. Those individuals you name know me because they know the work that I've done, they know my reputation for integrity and honesty, and they know my ability to get the job done. And they understand that at a critical time like this, when the law and justice system is under siege, literally under siege, it is so hard to fill spots. The sheriff has over 30 spots open. Every police officer, I just talked to them this evening, they've got at least 25 open billets. Every jurisdiction is struggling to fill billets right now, and it's critical that we have someone who knows how to support the law enforcement community while still holding people accountable and moving the county forward through this next chapter. And maybe that's why those individuals who I consider to be folks who I've worked with for many years, some I've known since childhood. Sam and I, we knew each other when we were teenagers. That goes back a long ways. Our moms worked together many years ago. My niece and Nate went to school together. They were carpool mates. This is I mean, frankly, at the end of the day, Snohomish County is a small county. I worked at King County, it was too big. I worked at Kitsap, it was too small. It's a little like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Snohomish County is just right. Because this is our home. These are our friends, these are our colleagues. These are people that are willing to look past, oh, you have a label on you, and therefore, because you are a D or because you are an R, I can't like you, support you, or help you. These are people who are willing to say, you know what, this person has integrity, this person has ethics, and this person can get the job done, and I'm going to support them for that. That, I don't think it makes me special. I think it actually breaks down the barriers that have been created in this nation for far too long that's creating a chasm and not bringing us together. There used to be a day when Republicans and Democrats could disagree about things and argue about things, but still go break bread at the end of the day. We need to get back to that society. And that's what's so frustrating, is that we have so many people that are so angry all because of a label. Really? A label? That is ridiculous. So I'm here to say I have these people as my friends and my supporters. I just do.
Not why we're angry. Sorry, Jason.
That was a good response. So Jason and I admittedly have very different skill sets. Now, not going to concede, but just for the sake of argument, let's say that Jason's a better qualified candidate. It's up to you to decide who do you think is actually going to do the better job? It doesn't matter if somebody is more qualified if they're going to continue leading us down the path that we're on. Without necessarily taking the statements and maybe the names mentioned, please keep in mind that many people that have endorsed Jason are in positions of power and have either championed or allowed the current conditions that we have to occur. And again, I'll just say that my biggest concern, my best endorsement is you, the people, you, the voters. And just keep in mind, take a good look at Jason, take a good look at me. At the end of the day, you have to decide for yourself. Like I said, you're intelligent people. Just keep in mind, you're not electing the head of a public defenders association. You're not electing a head of a social service agency. You're electing a prosecutor whose job it is to keep our community safe by prosecuting criminals. That's what I will do.
And that is the expectation for every prosecutor to do. And I think from what I've heard in this crowd this evening, I understand, do you support law enforcement?
Yes.
You support the deputy sheriffs?
Yes.
The deputy sheriffs, the Everett Police Association, the Linwood Police Guild, Chief Dan Templeman, have all recognized the importance of the skill set to help take this office forward in the next generation and also help people be held accountable and keep the streets safe.
Question. 251.
Ending domestic extremism Zoom, hosted by the County Rights Commission, Executive Summers, Prosecutor Cornell, 44th Rep. Abelberg, among others. Abelberg said, "Our law enforcement in conjunction with domestic organizations took over Snohomish. It was any protection, it was absolute clear, and that's get to that place of domestic terrorism." You address that, Eric, as tyrannical rhetoric from our government, who is calling people protecting their pre-domestic terrorism. And I'd like to define how you will stand up to protect individual rights, situations we are going against their own government.
Thank you. This rhetoric by two elected officials is very unfortunate. Calling people who are the way their children are being taught domestic terrorists is being thrown around way too much. So it would be good if both could dial that back a little bit. It's important to remember that we all have the ability, the right to defend ourselves. But outside of the firearms, we've got to defend ourselves and defend our property. Unfortunately, because it's gotten so bad because of the way that the office has treated crime, offenders back on the street to reoffend, and they're setting people up. They're setting people up where they're going to have to defend themselves. And nobody in here wants to hurt somebody or their life, and then they're going to be charged with a crime for defending your property. As prosecutor, make sure that all the understand that if a report comes across, if a case comes across their desk, there is an element or there is a good faith self-defense claim that really needs to be looked at hard, really needs to be investigated. The last part of the question about government action I wasn't quite clear on, so I'll just say that, and I'm sure Jason will that I honor and respect the Constitution. I will do everything in my power to ensure that everyone's constitutional rights are upheld. That includes the accused, right? We're going to give them a fair day in court, make sure they've got a fair trial. But at the day those accused of crime are convicted in a court of law will be held accountable.
And I think Brett and I both agree the Constitution is paramount. But I think what's also important to understand is the questions that took place in Snohomish, and that was one day, because that's what I believe Representative Berg was probably referring to. There were many different perspectives from that day. There were perspectives of those on First. There were perspectives of individuals who were up off the streets who were actually assaulted. There were individuals who saw racist memorabilia at that rally or gathering. And there are many people who are conducting themselves in a completely lawful, legitimate way under the Constitution. And so I think what we're seeing, and I actually had the opportunity to watch a documentary called What Happened on First Street. Excuse me? Full of lies. These were individuals, these were students who were giving their perspective on what happened in their community. And if you're willing to completely discount their perspective and not actually listen to what they have to say, then how are we as a society going to come together to understand both sides of an issue? And that's what's frustrating.
Come on. Respect.
With that, I believe I'm getting the times up, but thank you.
All right, we're going to have one more question for this meeting, and then we have a closing question. So, 263. 263.
It's a little bit like the raffle at the auctions. You really hope your number gets called for the final prize.
263. Just ask your question.
I have this to both of you. If cases of voter fraud evidence are taken from the prosecuting attorney's office, I don't know if that's how that works, but if they're brought to you, would you have the courage to prosecute?
And you'll go first.
Absolutely, it's a great question. I've had the pleasure of working in elections law for decades. It started back in Kitsap County, where I represented the county auditor there, served on the canvassing board for a period of time. And here in Snohomish County, I've been on the canvassing board for about the last 14 years, and I've represented the auditor at various points in time. I will say this, with Snohomish County Auditor Garth Bell and his predecessors have done an outstanding job protecting the security and the integrity of our election system. There are many checks and balances along the way that have prevented fraudulent ballots from coming through. I find it very, for literally, how many people have come and watched? We've got a few observers. And were you there when, let's see, well, I think it was the party chair for the Republican Party a couple of years ago requested audit. The audit came back and confirmed on a spot batch audit that the election results were accurate.
Small sample.
Right. They could have asked for a larger sample if they wanted to. But the integrity is there because the system has in place checks and balances to make sure this gets done. If we were presented with a case of criminal fraud, we would absolutely review it and make a charge decision based on that. But I can tell you that no one has brought that to the prosecutor's office with a criminal investigation saying the fraud occurred. And I will tell you that the election system in Snohomish County has security measures in place and has integrity behind it.
I forget the year and remember the number. I think it might have been 2016. Very certain that the county was given a number of referrals of fraud. I think it was from 2016 election to knowledge, no charges. Now, we can't see the case files, so we don't know if the case was there, if it was beyond a reasonable doubt. But assuming it was, I think those cases should have been charged. There's enough concern, enough evidence out there that things have gone wrong with our election system that we should really take these things that are where evidence can be looked at, witnesses can be cross-examined, so the public will know what happened and will have more confidence in our elections. Last thing we want is some unknown entities or out there to decide who our leaders would be. So as a prosecutor, if I'm given a referral that I could prove beyond a reasonable doubt, I will prosecute those.
All right. We have a quick question for both of you. Brett, you'll go first. Well, the COVID shot has had
it becomes clear the case across your desk that someone died due to the shot, will you prosecute if that's within your power?
This can be a difficult question to ask. There's so many unknowns, so many that we really need to make that decision. So keep in mind that we're slightly talking about a criminal referral here. So we need to establish a whole bunch of things. But if a crime, if it becomes apparent, if there's evidence, if there's reason to believe that a crime has occurred as a result of somebody receiving a shot, maybe life-saving treatment was withheld for whatever reason, and that raises the standard of criminal liability, will prosecute just like we would any other.
Okay, second part.
By the FDA and the CDC's own admission, they don't know who's affected by the shot. It's a game of Russia. It's already been lied to. In your opinion, is the shot or the mandate something that your office should be promoting, supporting, or opposing?
So this will be submitted to this, but I've done some research. As I said, I lost my job after 21 years with the city of Seattle because despite the religion, they decided to accommodate me because I want to get the vaccine. So it's very, very dear to my heart. The vaccines that are out on the market right now are still under an emergency use authorization. They are not fully approved. What is not available in the U.S. and I've recently read never be made available in the U.S. So any entity that I can't believe that they would put on there. I cannot imagine any entity mandating that their employee can take their experimental drug. They will then assume liability. So this is a ticking time bomb. So there's going to be a red one day, and there's a lot of people. In the case of the government, it's very unfortunate because if the government's down this path and set themselves for civil liability, who ends up paying the bill? We all do. The county doesn't have a printing press. There's a judgment against the county for a vaccine injury. It comes out of your pockets and not too. So I understand that the attorney's office does currently have a vaccine mandate. If I'm elected, that mandate will be reset.
Same question, both parties.
Absolutely. First and foremost, yes, if a case is referred to the office that actually can prove beyond a reasonable doubt the elements of the crime, there's absolutely a case that would need to be looked at for a charging decision. Plain and simple. Prosecutors swears an oath to uphold the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington. Plain and simple. As to the vaccine mandate, the current elected prosecutor opposed the vaccine mandate. I personally believe that a vaccine decision or any medical decision is so intimate and personal to an individual that it's between them and their medical provider to make a decision as to what takes place. With that, I will say, there were many, Brett, it's too bad you didn't work in the office and could have been a deputy prosecutor because we granted several religious exemptions because we recognize the importance and the integrity of that. And I believe that is important for us to recognize and respect rights.
Brett? Okay, thank you guys very much for your time and effort. Come on, show my hand, that's a good job. Thank you very much. I hope
Done.
if you'll all take your seats real quick. I beg your indulgence. You don't want to miss what's about to happen.
Sorry about that.
During our meeting tonight, we were informed Scott Stevenson, who is running for Congress, the 2nd District. Is he in the House? Is he here?
8th District.
8th District, excuse me. My glasses.
We want to give you 5 minutes to tell your story. Before you come up, I want to say something to this crowd. We've all been concerned about our schools. We've been fighting the fight. You need to listen to this story. It's going to break your heart. I hope it rejuvenates everybody in this room, and we go back to the fight with both guns blazing.
All right, that was quite an intro. Yes, I'm Scott Stevenson. I'm running for Congress against Jim Schreier. I'll be very brief about this. She's 100% of the time voted with Nancy Pelosi. She needs to go. I'm going to just be very brief. I only got 5 minutes. But I want to tell you really quickly about me. I am an MIT-educated rocket scientist. And I will tell people when they say, that's not rocket science, I could say, well, just ask me, I'll let you know. So that's my starting point. But anyway, I want to just launch into the story. There are 3 things in my platform. The first one, our country is under attack by the radical left. There are 3 major pillars of my platform. We know this. We know they're trying to turn our country into a communist country. The first thing is we need to save our children. The second is no border, no country. We're being invaded from the south. And the third is we need to secure our elections. I firmly believe the 2020 election was stolen, and we need to adjudicate it immediately when I get there. Much more, I'd be happy to talk to folks after. Let me talk about saving our children. This is really the thing that got me into the race, and this is a very hard story for me to tell, and Jen, my partner's back there. And this happened to us. Our son, Finn, our eldest son, we have 3 kids, 2 13-year-old twins and a 14-year-old Finn. Finn is a beautiful, intellectual kid, super empathic, and awesome child. In 3rd grade in a school in Seattle, Jen got a call one day from the school district, and they said, we need you to come in. Something happened at school today. And Jen, thinking, Finn, he has ADHD, he was having trouble writing at the time, and verbally having some issues. So she thought, okay, this is just, something that happened in school. So she went in, and she was met by the teacher and the school counselor. And Finn was with her. And they proceeded to tell her that Finn had decided he wanted to be a girl. They went on to say that they had planned a party for him, and they had chosen a name that they were going to announce to the class the next day. And this was all within about 8 hours of the event. So they made Finn repeat the new girl's name. Back to Jen, back to the teacher and the counselor. Of course, Jen was completely on her heels by this. She didn't even know how to react, as I don't think any parent would in this situation. She came home very distressed. What else did they say? Do you want to add, sweetheart?
They told me that I didn't. Come on up. You got a story to tell. Come on up.
Come on up, too. Come on up, Jen. I want you to fill this in. Thank you, baby.
No, I just want to say that they made in front of him. They told me I would ruin him.
If I didn't listen to them and do what they told me to do.
So of course, we immediately took Finn out of that school. Yeah. That very moment, Jen walked out. And we were blessed in a sense because we work in tech and we have some financial means. We were able to put Finn into a private school. But not all families have this. And so many parents have to deal with it. And in cases we've seen in California, and maybe here, I'm not sure, Child Protective Services is even called against parents when they don't agree to this transition. So they are weaponizing this against us, to destroy the nuclear family and to undermine the greatest thing that keeps our country together.
So this is the number one reason why, and this is what woke me up.
As many of you are, I'm an individual. I was just taking care of my family, trying to provide. But this told me what the radical left, the weak establishment right, in fact, are not standing up to them or up to. This cannot go on anymore. Now, later on, when
Jen was walking away from the school,
she asked Finn, she said, what exactly did you say that caused this? And he said, well, Mom, all I said was, sometimes I don't feel like the other boys. And what he meant was, he's not an athletic child. He's an intellectual and a sweet kid. They took this and they twisted it with their perverted ideals, and they made it into something it is not. Now, I'm happy to say, and I want to end this on a happy note, Finn is definitely a boy. Which is great. But imagine if he hadn't had the amazing mom, Jen, me to back her up if she was a single mom. What would the outcome of that have been? We have met many parents since who have had this experience. And it is not uncommon. It is very common. It is deliberate. We are seeing it more and more. In fact, we live in Fall City, and on our street alone, it's a small community. There are two families child transitioning right now.
So I'm just gonna leave it at that. This is why I am running. I am an America First candidate. I am a proud Trump Republican.
I have never run for office in my life. I am not a lawyer. I am not a politician. I am not a political insider.
I have never worked in D.C. I am running because our country is under attack and we need to stop this. I will never compromise. I will never back down. If I am elected, I will
go to D.C. and I will stick it to them every single day.
Big hand, guys. Many of you know that we spend a lot of time with the school board. This is just another example of what we need to be fighting for in our country today. A quick announcement before we let you go talk to the candidates. We will not be having our third Thursday meeting this month. We are going to support Fellowship for Freedom is going to support the community. So, did you hear that? Okay. Before I let you go talk to the candidates, we will not be having our third Thursday month in July meeting. Fellowship for Freedom is going to be supporting the community tent event at the park here in town, okay? So if you haven't heard about it, look at the poster, go out, take a look. And our next meeting will be August 4th, and we will continue to bring candidates and introduce you guys. Dave, I'm going to get to you on the next meeting. I'll get you, I promise. I got your card. So, with that said, everybody have a good time. Hold on. Go to the back and take a look at, talk to the candidates, and by all means, the Flame is here. If you haven't heard about the Flame, it's a newspaper that tells the truth, nothing but the truth, and truth you will never see in our national media. So, thank you very much. To the back. Thanks, guys.